Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Well, we have a relatively big day today, I think, because we're getting a ton of economic data today. We got some ISM numbers, we got JOLTS coming, and that's all at 10 o'clock. So markets might be a little bit tight until 10 o'clock. Let's come over to the charts, take a look at what happened yesterday. The big play that we had yesterday was end of month flows. I had been predicting that up into, like a whole week before. And I kind of miscalculated and thought that the end of the month was on Friday, but it was on Monday. On Monday, we did end up seeing those flows. Let's look at the S&P 500. Big up day. I can't tell you how many videos and posts I saw on social media, TikTok, etc., of people just absolutely dumbfounded as to why the S&P 500 moved up yesterday, but it was end of month flows. Pretty tight overnight. Here in the treasuries, they saw an okay move up, but kind of moved down throughout most of that and now are up higher. The move isn't like super huge, but I would say in the larger scheme of things, it is not insignificant. In fact, it's big enough that we kind of want to come back over here, and now all of a sudden we're looking at it and we're like, well, that's not too far off. And I think that there's a really good chance here that if the ISM numbers are weaker than expected and the JOLTS number is weaker than expected, and I do believe that the probability is that that's what's most likely to happen. And then on top of that, you tend to get buying in the treasuries on the first and last day of the month as primary dealers kind of hedge all of their inventory. So all of these things combined kind of create for a flow that is likely to be to the upside. Especially if the equities start falling apart. Okay, let's look at some of the other instruments that we got here. Oil had a pretty good step up yesterday, but that is, of course, after a long decline since Donald Trump has gotten into office, as he's trying to free up oil and gas in the United States. Gold and silver. Well, gold looks great. Silver is still kind of meh. There are some real dynamics kind of pushing silver down relative to gold. And if this ever shifts, if this ever breaks out, then silver is going to break out like insane hard. But for now, it lags gold's. Copper's down there. Copper seems to be kind of more being affected, similar to oil, although to an even stronger extent with the declines in the stock market. Here we got the Japanese yen. I mean, this is a significant move right here we should make note of, but let's see where we go in relation to that now. But the dollar still kind of seems to be going sideways. We haven't seen another major move in the dollar yet.
By.
Then here is Bitcoin. A little bit of a recovery, but not quite to 85,000. So that's where we're at. Okay, I have the algorithm on. I have the news squawk on. Remember, we got Barkin speaking at the top of the hour. We've got Redbook. Redbook is usually not a big mover because we already have all that data, but it is in there. But US S&P manufacturing PMI is at 9:45 Eastern time, and then all of the big numbers at 10 o'clock Eastern time. So I think that we just kind of sit tight until then. I'm wondering if I should start some programming. I mean, I told myself I was going to do that, but we do have a period where we want to pay attention. Got a little bit of food, have some thoughts. So let's just chill for a second, and then we'll see where it goes. Oh, and I guess I should say hi to everybody that's here at the beginning. A Paul, Uzi, Gus, and Stefa. Welcome. Thank you for being here every day. It says FinViz is a cool looking website. Came across it there. You have never seen FinViz before? They have like the best stock scanner. I mean, it's been a long time. It's been years. It's been years since I've looked at stock scanners. But last time I looked, they had the best stock scanner. I'm just kind of browsing Reddit, and it recommended me something from r/roastme. Even though I don't think I follow that subreddit. Yeah, I don't follow that subreddit. But if the top comment is not something about Jennifer Lawrence, then there's something wrong with the internet. Like, this would confirm, if they don't say something about her looking like Jennifer Lawrence, then this would confirm the dead internet theory. Let's see. What's the first comment? Hunger Games, Jennifer Lawrence, but the movie takes place at Golden Corral. Okay, that bringing in Golden Corral into this was unexpected, but it was indeed about Jennifer Lawrence. Man. Okay, so will we be probably not live trades, but we'll take some. Because my income has recently become less stable, it is not very wise to take big risks in futures. So we're not going to take big live trades. I do suppose today, oh, by the way, since it's the first, we need to roll these over. I do suppose that we could probably take a micro trade here. Guess it kind of depends on what the liquidity looks like here. I have some reservations about that. Could trade one contract. Yeah, well, the issue is like, if I take risk and I lose, that is less time. Like really right now, it's kind of like, how long can we keep the stream going to bridge this gap? I tell you what, man, I feel like the canary in the coal mine. It's like we're all in a coal mine, and old Seth here is breathing hard, passing out. Seth and the rest of the tech industry, and everybody else is just kind of like, oh, it's just a little bird. The look, we're just fine. The air smells great to me. Let's continue pushing forward. That's what I feel the economy is right now. All of the top line numbers look great, and so everybody's ignoring what's going on. But there are sectors of the economy that are looking very, very weak. And I think that these sectors, if something doesn't change, are very likely to drag the rest of the economy down with them. And so then on top of that, I mean, this was all things that were kind of in process, like going back to last summer, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, all the economic weakness is clearly due to Donald Trump and tariffs. No, like we were in a bad situation before that. A lot of what has happened since Donald Trump has become president is really more that weakness kind of becoming more apparent and then throwing the tariffs on top of that. So yeah, that's the situation. If the Federal Reserve doesn't bring interest rates down soon enough, will lead to a recession. And so from my perspective, I don't see relief coming. Unemployment ends next week. Chances of me being able to find a job. Why would I be able to find a job in the next week when I've, been applying like mad and doing absolutely everything that I can to get a new job in the past 6 months? So it could be a long time. We could be like this in a long time. Could be, frankly, it could be years for some people. I've seen lots of stories of people that they've been out of work for years. Since 2022, basically, right? So we have to hunker down for the long haul. And that means that to keep this going, we have to be conservative with our money. Can I see if price steadily but not parabolic trending up without delta trend, but those are shorts closing or stops getting hit? No, because if those were stops getting hit, then you would see changes in delta. If you are seeing a move that is not in line with the normal changes in cumulative delta, right? So like normally we have a decent move and I see about 10,000 contracts difference in cumulative delta. And if then I see a fairly decent move up and cumulative delta didn't hardly changed at all, that is most likely a correlation. It is most likely that the flow was in a correlated instrument to not in your instrument. Yes, the bot is on. Thank you. We're getting better. We're getting better. Because stops show up as market orders and will show as changes in cumulative delta. And why is it that all of a sudden those stops are so there's this kind of interesting theory. I mean, the thing is that I do not have the data to be able to conclusively differentiate triggered stops from regular market volume. My guess is that if I were to do some study about like where we see more stops and things like that, that it would be pretty randomly distributed, just like everything else. But one theory that does have to be tested is the idea that stops might have a different impact than regular orders. But in order for this, like, I see price trending steadily up, but without delta, that those are stops. I think that would have to mean that stops have more impact than regular orders. But that's not proven. It's a theory. We don't have the data to look at. Kind of doubt that theory. Or should I say, the null hypothesis should be that stop orders have the same impact as any other kind of order. Perhaps the reason I come down on that direction is because really the new participants coming into the markets, those big passive flows that come from large price insensitive institutions that they just have to execute. And they really don't care what is happening today or what the current price is or anything like that, right? Those guys just dwarf everything else. And so again, when you're looking for like trapped traders and stop orders and things like that can accelerate things, that can help you, especially when it's kind of close and it just kind of needs a push, you know? But by and large, those flows are trivial compared to the large price insensitive institutional flows. So, with delta on a particular asset, how can orders from another asset affect it? Because what happens is the limit orders will cancel and reposition. And this is how you get moves on practically no delta. Right? If it moves up and there's no delta, then that means that the limit orders canceled. Well, I mean, if it moved up, that means that if it moves up on no delta, then that means that the offers canceled and the bids stacked. And generally speaking, why that's going to happen is because these market making robots are primarily looking at correlated assets to determine where to set their best bid and best offer. And so if that correlated asset is moving down, then they cancel all of their orders and to match the arbitrage, essentially. Could be other situations, but the most common one is going to be, by far, correlated asset. I guess the other situation is the market makers adjusting their best bid, best offer randomly to inject randomness into the market is the other one. But those are going to be tiny teeny tiny moves, right? If limit orders are canceling and delta's flat, shouldn't price be flat? No. I cancel all the orders at 22, and then I stack offers at 22. I cancel all the orders at 21.5, stack at 22. Cancel all the orders at 21, stack at 21.5, right? And that can just keep happening, and that is going to move price down without any orders going. Now, of course, you know, a few orders are going to go off at each one of those, right? There's probably going to be at least one lot at each one of those. Because in order for you to see it on your chart, there has to be a trade, generally speaking. Most charts don't move based on the best bid, best offer. They move based on executed volume. But in order for price to move without the delta, that means these limit orders are moving. So we say we want to predict order flows. Well, I focus very heavily on the market orders because that is the strongest, most important order flow. The flows that are really, really predictable tend to come in as market orders. But there are flows that will come through primarily through limit orders. And limit orders canceling is a flow. So in this particular case, if you come back and you look at the charts, I would say that, you know, the change in cumulative delta as we've moved down to the lows has been pretty low. Well, okay, so they just broke out at 21.5 and there was a bit more volume on that one, okay? But generally speaking, from here to here, that is a move on lower delta than normal. And sorry, maybe I should like maybe I should highlight it like this. From here to here, right? You can see cumulative delta. It does look like maybe there's a meta order in this case, but it's just a little bit lighter than usual, you know? Like normally I would expect it to be more like that, you know? I'd expect it to be like 10,000 contracts. And what are we seeing? Well, the Japanese yen is also moving. So, pretty good chance that market makers are not holding as much liquidity as they normally do because the Japanese yen is declining. We just stated limit orders are canceling each other. No. Well, you're going to see limit orders on one side canceling, right? You're going to see bids canceling and offers stacking. It just changed from 22 to 21. We're starting to see some market volume come in. And the S&P 500 starting to turn up. That might be a hint at something deeper going on, because that was a pretty quick change. I am seeing stuff about the ECB. I'm not hearing that on my news squawk. Maybe I should refresh my news squawk. Check this. Come over to YouTube and just check my volume real quick. Hey, I don't know what's going on with that, but so another thing to keep in mind is that delta is the net change, right? It's not the net volume. So you can have a situation where there's an equal amount of market buying and market selling, and it could be a lot of market buying and market selling, but they just equalize each other. And in a normal circumstance, that should be like it just collides and it doesn't go anywhere, right? But if the market makers on the bids are holding less liquidity than the market makers on the offer, then price is going to move down. You see? This is why some of these things that we know about how the liquidity responds do matter. They do matter. Combine that together with something that you know that's predictive of order flow, and that's how you're able to get really, really good trades. Could you repeat the distinction between net volume and net delta? Sure. So cumulative delta is all market buys minus all market sells. That's what is it? It has nothing to do with like what price it was executed at or anything. It's just every time that you get a market buy, it's +1. Every time that you get a market sell, it's -1, or however much volume there was in that order, right? Okay. So you could have a situation where 5,000 market buys come through and 5,000 market sells come through. Cumulative delta is going to tell you 0. You're still going to see a lot of volume on that bar, but cumulative delta is going to be 0. Meaning there is not a imbalance between market buyers and market sellers. They're equal. Yeah, my main question is these long, steady price trends where delta remains flat through the whole move. Yeah, it really is, Lloyd, especially if you're looking at the treasuries. What instrument is this? I mean, are you seeing this right now? Is the long, steady price trend in the room with us right now? I hope so. I hope so. That would be good, right? No problem, Sober. That's what we're here for. I am happy to have served you today. So if it is in the 10-year treasury, then it is almost certainly correlation with the Japanese yen. 90% of the time, it is a correlation with the Japanese yen or the dollar. Okay. I see it all the time in ES. So ES is a different issue because there is a lot more hedging, and the flows in ES are so complicated. So part of why I trade ZN is because it's more predictable from a flow perspective. Okay. But one of the issues that you have in ES is that ES is not the actual thing, right? There is some evidence to suggest that price discovery does happen primarily in ES, but if somebody decides to buy a ton of Apple and Apple is moving up and that moves the value of the index up, you don't necessarily see that in the futures, right? Under normal circumstances, the guys trading on the futures will see that and trade into it on arbitrage, essentially, or whatever. That's an opportunity, right? But the market makers are looking at what is the difference between my future and the actual cash index. And so if nobody was trading in ES except for the market makers, you would still see the bids and offers move around to adjust to what the S&P cash index are. Right? And so what that means in ES, or it could mean in ES, is that the people that are trading on futures don't have any interest in trading that move for some reason. So again, it kind of depends, right? Like if you're seeing that and overall volume in ES is low, then that does kind of mean that for some reason the guys in ES aren't interested in it. And then you kind of have to start to think about, like, okay, who are the people that are actually trading ES? They're hedging. A lot of the time, these guys are hedging portfolios, things like that, right? So, yeah, what is moving ES, the orders or the underlying instrument? Well, I would say both. So if, because of correlations, it tends to be both. So if you come into the S&P futures and you buy a ton of it, enough that it moves things up, then you will generally see all of the other components of the S&P 500 move in correlation with it. Like, that's how the flash crash happened, right? It was primarily triggered, at least according to the scapegoats and everything, was primarily created by that finger trade in futures. And you probably should take it a step further and realize that, you know, a big trade in options probably could have moved the futures too. So a lot of the price discovery nowadays is actually happening in the options. Now, does that mean that we're at a huge disadvantage if we don't have the options data? Well, I do think that having the options data would be an advantage, but probably only a small advantage, because we should see the orders come through into our instrument, and how those orders come through can give us some idea about what's actually moving it, right? I think this is a major factor behind why I think that you should have a bunch of different instruments up. Why I have the charts for all of these major different sections of the futures market. Because if I see a move, I'm going to look at the cumulative delta of the different instruments to kind of sort out where the money is actually coming in and out of, to understand what might actually be driving that move. I have like a bunch of different theories about what's driving that move, and then based on the correlations and flows that I actually saw, I can reject some of those theories. Right? And a lot of that's something that I would practice every day. Just you know, okay, we had a move. What are my theories for what it is? Maybe write them down. Check at the end of the day, like read news things and see what these news guys are saying, because they got guys they're talking to on the desks that will say, well, we saw this flow because these guys were doing this and yada yada, right? And then that can kind of be confirmation, because you're trying to predict order flow, and so you kind of have to do that every day to see how the flows actually tend to come out and how those flows actually affect things. And it's a complicated system, right? Reasons for what you stated, though, what moves ES is why I find the nicely advanced decline chart to have the most reliable correlation to ES. Yeah, so advanced decline, or rather like the tick, right? Well, there's different ones, right? So when you say nicely advanced decline, I think that you're talking about there is nicely advanced volume and nicely decline volume. There's also like how many issues are advancing and how many issues are declining. And then there's the tick, which is basically just how many are advancing at that time compared to how many are declining or whatever. If you look at tick, it tends to it does this. So advanced decline basically becomes a mid or high pass filter. Does that make sense? So like if we're having a move that's going up like this, right? You can change it into different components. One component is this, and one component is this, right? And so tick is basically, you know, if this was like audio, you would pass a filter, on this to just get this component, the band pass filter. Band pass or high pass filter. So no, it's called tick. One of those frustrating things is that tick means like 5 different things in finance. I think this is nicey cumulative tick. See? Symbol TICK. It's a bandpass filter. I think I can add symbol here. Yes. New pane. So here you can see, here's tick going down, and here's the S&P 500 going up, right? So it's basically, it's taking out that lowest frequency. It's a high pass filter. That's probably too complicated, but that's the way that it works in my head. That's the way that I think about them. Yeah, there's an actual advanced decline. So that, right, that's this one. Right here. Just delete that. Oh, actually, I shouldn't have deleted that. There's a way to change it into a bar chart, but I don't remember how. Oh, there you go. Style. Candles. There you go. Yep. They're pretty correlated. What I often find myself doing is trying to turn what is supposed to be a short-term trade into a long-term trade and losing my win. To help with this, I'm trying to set up multiple exits with a trailing stop. Well, so I think the issue that I run into with any kind of way of gaming that out is that the market doesn't care where you got in or how much profit that you have baked in. It's all a martingale and, you know, volatility. And so once you start putting out those set stops and targets, that results that you get from those set stops and targets mostly mirror the volatility of the market. And I think that the only way to get out of that trap is you're predicting order flows. You stay in it until the flow that you're expecting to see is done. And then you're out. So on this one, well, by the way, how much of a decline have we had? 33 to 24, so about 10,000. I'd say that this is a lot further than normal on 10,000 contracts. Not a flow I was expecting to see. Probably mostly due to the Japanese yen. But if, for instance, we get a large bump in the treasuries because of the PMIs and the ADP, or sorry, not the ADP, the JOLTS that's coming out later, you know, I would expect that one to probably be at least 30,000 contracts, right? So if I get an initial jump and that's initial jump is 10K, I'm going to hold it until I get 30K, right? Because I have an estimate of how much of an imbalance is going to come into the market from that particular thing. And how far the market moves in relation to that depends on the liquidity, right? So if I'm looking at all of these different moves, like how far does it tend to go after ADP? Well, that's going to be inconsistent because liquidity conditions differ. But I have found that the imbalance in market orders is very consistent. So if you're basing your stops on that, it seems to be better for the kind of trades that we do, right? Now, there's this other side, which is like turning it into a longer term swing trade. And that's a different thing. I don't know how to deal with that. I mean, I kind of think that you sit down and you say, okay, I have a longer term momentum signal that says to be long in that particular instance. And then I happened to be scalping and got a really good entry and have the ability to let it run. So I should try and let it run, but then it comes back on me. And it seems to me that the edge that you kind of get with like momentum and those sorts of higher time frame things are just so high time frame that doesn't work, you know? That there's the chances of it doing all sorts of crazy things are just too high. So you have to pick, I guess. I mean, it's a limitation of having a small account, right? Detecting a possible little turn here in the S&P. And maybe some buying in the 10-year treasuries, so. I'm actually kind of tempted to take some of this absorption here. But I can see, for one, there's an iceberg on the offer. I don't like that. We're also really close to the equity opens, so. Right, if I had a big account, I would buy the dip all the way through and hold or double down, yeah. I don't know. Like the other approach to this is you just take on risk, right? Like there is something to, I don't think that you can get away from the fact that a large part of what we are doing when you're trading futures is just taking on a lot of risk and hoping that you get lucky. And, you know, taking on those big risks while having a bunch of tiny little edges, you know, taking on a lot of risk with a bunch of tiny little edges behind you. That's just as reasonable of a way to trade as any other way to trade. Just don't go around, you know, when you get lucky, don't go around telling everybody that you got it and you know what's going to happen. Because really, you made money from the risk, right? Your primary strategy is risk premia. I've tried many, many times to try and find more empirical data about the optimal ways to execute risk premia strategies, and I've never found anything. My studies have shown when trying to align your entry with the flow of a higher time, the ideal ratio is 1 to 3, 5 at the most. I forget the details here. I think it is the case that time frame scaling happens with a square root, right? So like if I want to convert the VIX from, because the VIX is basically how much it's going to move in a month or however far away expiration is. and you want to convert that into how much is it going to move in a day. Is the VIX supposed to be how much it moves in a month? I don't know. But you don't do that. You take it basically comes out to 16, right? Yeah. So it's the number of trading days in a year. So when I'm trying to find out how many when I'm trying to convert the VIX to how much it should move in a day, I take the square root of the number of trading days in a year, the square root of 250, which is about 16. So you take the square root of the thing. So that is probably why you're, when you're looking at them, that it seems to come out to those numbers, is because it's a square root. But there is a real practical limit on how far things can move in one day under normal circumstances. Basically, in order for the S&P 500 to move more than like 1.5%, the market has to become unhinged and the market makers start pulling all of their orders and stop providing liquidity. And so in most circumstances, I have found that having a risk reward of 10 is about the highest that is practical. Or rather, your winners are 10 times the size of your losers. Like that's the most that is practical, and when you go beyond that, you don't get enough data points to justify trying to trade. That's kind of the limit that kind of makes it impractical for us to do momentum. But momentum strategies work on higher time frames, because when you can hold it for multiple days, now all of a sudden you get a situation where your winner can be like 100 or 1,000 times your average loser. Then the math works out. Yeah, and that was only 5 minutes. I feel like the S&P 500 should be open already. So I saw this thread in r/quant, heard about Morgan Stanley firing QRs, traders, and also MRs recently as part of a layoff. Is anyone here working for Morgan Stanley in the US? Please share insights as to what led to the Morgan Stanley layoff suddenly. The above layoff happened in Mumbai. Any insights? It's interesting. I've seen more than one thread about layoffs today on Reddit. And I've also seen a lot of stuff about offshoring, moving development to India. And so that's curious to me that here's somebody talking about layoffs in India. Because the other wild part about it is that international candidates are having a super, super hard time finding jobs too in the tech industry. So Let's see here. Brad says, on a Computer Geek note, I am in the middle of building out a Pi cluster. The goal is to get the whole Cube Rancher Harbor ISO cluster running. Oh, that's interesting. I've never kind of understood this. Like, why make a Pi cluster instead of, like, buying multiple machines? Like, of course, a Pi cluster is cheaper, but, like, I've seen people buy ridiculous amounts of them, so... Treasuries did go lower there, so my instinct a little bit earlier to not get in front of this thing was correct. Just my overall bias is higher in the treasuries. It maybe won't happen until the news, though. Then again, maybe it's moving down because somebody knows that the numbers are going to be good. Well, there's a decent amount of volume there in the treasuries off of the NYSE Open. Well, it looks like the opening flows in the S&P are all tilted to the sell side. By quite a large margin as well. I'm surprised it's not selling off harder here in the futures. Trump insider trading? I think that there are a lot of market participants that are just really good at looking at alternative data and predicting these numbers. It also, it kind of seems to me on some of these numbers, I don't know if ISM seems pretty random as to whether they're above or below the prediction. But some of these numbers, like man, the non-farms in particular, it seems like that all of the economists are really bad at predicting it. And yet, I always see trades ahead of them, suggesting that maybe somebody's using alternative data. I mean, it could be insider trading too, but I would like to think that somebody trading that big would catch regulators' attention and get caught very quickly. How come I have not seen any April Fool's Day stuff yet? Well, you know what? This seems like it's been a trend the last few years, isn't it? That, like, to find the April Fool's Day's jokes, you really have to go out of your way to find them. Oh, I don't think it has anything to do with the economy. It's been like that for a couple of years. I think that the people on the internet kind of got sick of it. How much do you think Trevor Milton paid Trump for his pardon? I'm not even sure. I haven't heard about that one. It's the Nicola guy. Yeah, okay, I know who we're talking about now. So, you know, like with the way that these sorts of things work, it's not like, oh, or at least with the way that that has been working, it's not like, oh, if you give Donald Trump $50 million, then he'll give you a pardon, and that it's like up for sale. It seems that it's been a much more kind of partisan thing. So just as an example, Sam Bankman-Fried has been pushing really, really hard to get a pardon. That he thinks that because other people in the crypto sphere have gotten pardons, that he might be able to get pardons, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Why? Because he donated very, very heavily to huge Democrat operations. He's not on the team, right? You're on the team and you're a big donor, then you get a pardon. Is what it is right now. Economists use old models that are no longer accurate, but they refuse to change, so someone else might be using a more accurate model and taking trades based on their own model. Maybe, I don't know. So like one of the things that I do see, or that I wonder about, especially in relation to the jobs numbers, is that the government agencies or the survey companies that collect these statistics are changing their methodology all the time. And how good are the economists at the major research outfits? How good are they at keeping up with those changes? Because, there's definitely been some changes in the jobs number, in the non-farms number. And it really doesn't seem like the industry has adjusted to it at all. It's kind of like, how is it that they continue to get it wrong for like 2 years? They haven't updated things. It is just absolutely wild to me. At the same time, another factor is that the kinds of economic models that we tend to use for that sort of a thing are just not going to be very accurate overall, because they can't deal with complexity. And making a model that does deal with complexity for that kind of a application is not really practical, right? Like I can make a model to try and see, why does a certain thing happen, right? I see this behavior in the market. Why is that? And complexity is often able to explain what causes those sorts of things. But that's a very different thing from being able to turn that into making an accurate number for an economic release, right? So I would expect there to always be a certain amount of deviation between the analyst estimates and the actual number. It just seems to me that lately that gap has become wider, especially in non-farms. And I'm sitting here like, what's going on? Like something's not right. Can't he just switch sides? No, I don't think so. Not from jail when you're already broke. I think one of the things you got to keep in mind with that sort of stuff, again, like, it's kind of a complexity thing. Like, people want to use this simple heuristic. I've seen businesses do this. So when I was helping campaigns, there was all sorts of businesses that would come in that were like, like there was this regulatory change, or there was this decision made at the state level that didn't go very well for us. And so that's when we decided we need to get more involved. And they think that I'm just going to go to this one dinner and spend a lot on donating to them. And that's going to, I'm going to grease the wheels, and then they're going to give me what I want. And it doesn't work that way. What's actually happening is, as a donor, you get more access to them. You get to talk to them, and that gives you small little pressure in one direction. And all of these small little interactions over time are what kind of pushes the political machine to kind of move in your favor. So it's usually not like I just made this one big lump sum payment to my favorite politician one time and now they're in my pocket. It's much more systematic than that. You know what I mean? So you can't just, especially when you're already broken, you're in prison, can't just say, "Oh, I'm a Republican now," and then they're gonna pardon you. No. Sam Bankman-Fried is gonna rot in prison. Good. I don't know. The most high profile pardon of this nature that I can think of is the Silk Road guy. Well, I think that what the Silk Road guy did was absolutely illegal and he deserves to serve in prison. But maybe they threw the book at him a little bit too hard. Okay? Maybe they threw the book at him too hard. How long was he in prison for? Look that up. (2013). He was sentenced to double life in prison plus 40 years without the possibility of parole. That seems excessive to me. He served 12 years. I think it's okay to give him a pardon. Even though I don't like him. Now this guy, Milton, how long was he in prison for? This one probably not long enough. Ross was quite evil though if you go deep into it. Well, I don't doubt that. But I'm trying to say that how I feel about them or how evil I think that they are is not really the thing that matters in this particular case. It's really what was their actual offense. And it is the sentence fitting the crime. Okay, Trevor Milton was sentenced to 4 years in prison. That seems a little bit light. So, as a result of the pardon, Milton will not need to compensate Nikola shareholders who lost tens of millions of dollars. Wow. Oh, he's LDS, is he? Nah. Wait, does he live here in Utah still? He has a website? What? I don't know, man. It sounds to me, I'm just getting the vibe here that they're trying to make the case that it was a politically motivated prosecution and that he didn't do anything wrong. But like, no. Yeah, I would also bet Elizabeth Holmes buys herself. No. It's the same thing. She donated to Democrats, man. She's not getting a pardon. No way. I would be so shocked if that happened. Let's see here. Milton resigned as executive chairman of Nikola following regulatory inquiries. In 2022, he was found guilty of securities and wire fraud. Hindenburg released the report accusing Milton of making false statements and calling Nikola an intricate fraud. I would agree with that. Milton resigned. On September 2020, Milton resigned from his position as executive chairman. As part of his exit package, he remained an unpaid consultant until December, when he was restricted from publicly commenting on Nikola without private approval. Milton retained 91.6 shares. In September 2020, allegations of sexual misconduct were reported. In July 2021, a grand jury returned an indictment against Trevor Milton that included 3 counts of security fraud and wire fraud. Milton pled not guilty to the charges. He was charged in additional wire fraud. He was found guilty, sentenced to 4 years, $168 million in restitution, and a $1 million fine. It was expected Milton would, after credits earned through the First Step Act and other Bureau of Prisons programming, only serve approximately 1 year in prison. In his court case, Milton was represented by 2 lawyers with close connections to Donald Trump, Mark Mukasey and Brad Bondi, the brother of Pam Bondi. Oh, well... You see, you don't understand. What I'm trying to tell you here is you are using an ineffective heuristic. Oh, by the way, while I've been diving into all of that, we did get the US S&P manufacturing PMI pretty close to in line, slightly better than expected at 50.2 versus 49.9. See, you're using the heuristic that Donald Trump will do whatever makes him the most money. Right? And it's more complicated than that. And you can see right here, why did Milton get a pardon? Because his lawyers were like Trump's lawyers. So they had people in the inner circle saying, hey, what happened to Milton was really unfair and politically motivated and yada, yada, yada. It kind of sounds to me, though, like that. Well, it doesn't say how long he was in prison, but it kind of sounds to me like that the pardon was really more about him not having to pay restitution. Let's see if I can find somewhere that has Trevor Milton's side of the story. I don't think that I'm going to find it on mainstream news. You never go into that much detail about legal things. I don't know, like with Nikola, I always felt like that was an overvalued stock. It was being deceptive, but I never thought that it was like rise to the level of legal fraud. And they didn't convict him of, they convicted him of securities fraud, so I'm not even sure the details of it. Trump says he did nothing wrong. Maybe if I search for Trevor did nothing wrong. What will Google do with that? Still got about 10 minutes, so then I really got to pay attention, right? But I don't know. The flows are kind of like a little bit like, okay. I'd say on the edge enough that I could maybe still justify the trade that I was originally thinking of. But the overall decline, I do not think matches up. So I'm already seeing flows that are unexpected, and that makes me worry about the kind of trade that I was originally thinking about taking. See, you're making time. If you want to go and make a bet that Donald Trump would posthumously pardon Bernie Madoff for a payday, then be my guest. But I'm just telling you that that's not going to be able to make you effective predictions that will actually make you money. And nor is it going to help you understand the political system. I think what I need to do is I would need to go to tools, change it to a custom range to let's say to the end of October 2024 and go, I don't know, how far back should we go? 2021, because that's when they like okay. The Nikola founder may have been a convicted fraudster, but he wasn't greedy or mean-spirited and not as bad as Elizabeth Holmes' lawyers say. You're just jealous your favorite criminal couldn't get a pardon too. Okay. I don't think you do know how it works, because you're saying things that are like just not how it works. Like, I think I think that you probably did, go to plenty of like big Christmas parties and everything, but I don't think that you know enough to understand the complexity involved in it. It's not as simple as just, I'm living my life and then all of a sudden I need a pardon, and so I give Donald Trump millions of dollars and I get a pardon. It doesn't work that way. They absolutely give political favors to their team, but these are relationships developed over hundreds of interactions. He must be a super important guy, yeah. I think this might be another example of Lloyd saying, well, they can't necessarily prove me wrong, so I'm just going to lie about something. It's like, no, it's not that I'm blind to it, it's that I actually understand how it works. Listen, I've worked on a bunch of different campaigns. I'm not some mover or shaker or anything like that, but I've worked for a number of local campaigns, including Senate and House races. And well, I've never volunteered for a governor campaign, but I've definitely known some people that should run for governor. Anyways, I've been in there. We've helped organize the fundraising and all of that sort of stuff. Like I understand how it works, okay? Like if you want to get political favors from government, I can tell you how to do it. And I'm just telling you right now, it's not as simple as you just give Donald Trump $50 million right before you want a pardon and you get it, okay? Trevor Milton says in an exclusive interview with 12 News that the president rescued him from political persecution, and his family's nearly $2 million contribution to the Trump campaign last fall had nothing to do with his pardon. I actually bet you that he would, but not, I bet you. It's absolutely true. He already knew the lawyers. Like, the lawyers would be pushing for that anyways, regardless of whether he contributed. Was it really $2 million? Probably to a PAC, to a super PAC, huh? But I bet you this would still be happening without that, because he had the connections. Milton said, no. Come on, where's his argument? The government was wrong. They were wrong to do it and should have never have happened. I just don't buy that. You know, there's like the argument that you're always going to make in the public sphere or when you're in court to try and get you the best chance of, you know, your court case playing out favorable for you, or you know, getting you the best that you can get or whatever, right? I'm not seeing anything that suggests to me that Milton actually believes that it was a political persecution, nor am I seeing yet the argument that he's making as to why he didn't do anything wrong, right? It's kind of like the government absolutely found some fraud, and he's saying, oh no, it was just political prosecution. Which kind of almost sounds to me more like, well, I did do that, but normally I wouldn't be prosecuted for it, right? You know, it's just... Now, maybe he thinks that making those grandiose claims and everything, that's just the way that the business works, right? Because everybody else does it. I mean, in all honesty, isn't Elon Musk does that to some extent, doesn't he? There's lots of companies out there that are running purely on hype. Yeah, I'm telling you, having your lawyers be Pam Bondi's brother matters more than $2 million. It does. Okay, we are getting the pull. Let's focus. I think my gambler play here would be to buy, but let's just let the numbers come. Don't forget about the jolts. Jolts was they're expecting 7.655 million versus a previous reading of 7.74. So they expect a slight decline. If it was below that number, that would be a pretty big hit. Versus ISM manufacturing, they're expecting 49.5. Well, I would expect it to be below 50. But let's see. There's also prices paid. That could factor into this. Oh. Okay, Jolts is lower than expected. Okay, so ISM manufacturing PMI came in at 49 versus the expected 49.5, and prices paid came in at 69.4 versus 64.6. So that is slightly higher than expected. But then Jolts was 7.568 versus the expected 7.65. So there's a little bit of nuance in there because prices paid was a little bit higher than expected. But it does seem to be resulting in some long flows and flows that are pretty much eclipsing the rest of the session. And from there, we also get into that it's the first day of the month. So that's also kind of a positive for the treasuries. So that's why I'm trying to make a play here, averaging into it. Okay, that's good. I think I can kind of relax for a bit now. I don't think that the entry was perfect, but now the robot might be getting close to taking a trade here. That could get interesting. Milton added that a documentary set to air this spring on YouTube will clear his name. Oh, okay, so we'll get his side of the story then. Well, I don't know if I think that this is going to be like a 30,000 net change sort of a thing. Like, I think 20K might be pushing it. May have already gotten the most I'm going to get from this. At least from the news. I mean, more broadly, I do think we could move up, but that's probably a trade that I can't stick around for. I do think, you know, I've been debating with myself here. about whether I wanted to go skiing today or not. Okay. So what I'm seeing right now is kind of the damaged liquidity, making it a little bit hard for them to continue pushing up. The dollar might still have some room to go, though. Six inches overnight. Soft and powdery. High of 25. Most of the lifts are closed. Like, I do want to go skiing. Like, this might be the last chance. I kind of thought that I already had the last chance, though. And I kind of want to get started on some programming projects today. Suppose I can still do that. But okay, they can continue this, huh? It seems to be stepping up to that 27 with purpose, you know? Okay, well, 27.5 might be a little harder. Okay, good stack. Well, so one of the things that I'm seeing here is that the S&P 500 hasn't really, you know, it might just be getting started with some negative action, right? Also wondering if we'll start to see some steepening in the yield curve. I'm not seeing too much of that yet. But there was just a tick of steepening.
Block buy.
What do you think? I have no clue. I did see that. I did see that. Let's see. I mean, I want to make it clear. I've never been a fan of Tesla. I've never been a fan of them. I think they make shoddy cars and that the stock is mostly being driven by hype. Like, it's the most popular, well-known stock, and that's what's driving the flow into it. And I was kind of, even back when it was like, man, it seems like just yesterday that they got added to the S&P 500 and everything, right? I was like, I don't think this is a good thing. Especially since they were like, they had bought some Bitcoin at the time. But then they sold their Bitcoin, so then it was no big deal. But okay, that was a big iceberg at 28 that they cleared. Doesn't seem to be letting up. SPOOs are dropping a bit. I'm definitely getting like risk off correlation flow here. So that's the one where I would expect to see really strong delta on the move, right? But just that delta coming in as the S&P 500 pushes new lows. The only Tesla product I would buy is the flamethrower. It's hilarious, dude. I totally forgot about the flamethrower. I honestly think that Elon Musk understands these things about the market and the world to some extent and is intentionally taking advantage of them. PayPal says we're in Oct. What do you mean by that? Yeah, Musk has always been a snake oil salesman. But you know, like there are some people that, due to their particular insecurities and things like, especially narcissistic type people, right? That they're snake oil salesmen because they're narcissistic people. But there are other people that become the snake oil salesman because they see that it works. And I think that Elon Musk is much more the latter. Because, I mean, come on, the guy is autistic AF. He is... I've never seen a celebrity that's more obviously autistic.
Order filled.
Okay. Interesting that as soon as I saw a potential spot for me to get out at, and that was mostly had to do with, not that the market cares, but I was at $500 profit and I was getting a relatively big order in a weird spot, right? So I get out, and that's exactly where the bot buys. Yeah. I don't know. Like, the funny thing is, again, the bot is doing something that I would not expect to work super great. Like, the bot is doing something that I would expect to be 50-50 most of the time. And I really think that what is going on is that we are just in such a turbulent market that we have gotten it continues through more. You know, So, but I do think that, well, mostly we're collecting data and seeing that it works correctly and everything, right? I do think that we can turn this into something real, like something that gets in early and stuff. Wow, 98% of all Tesla shares that moved yesterday moved all at once. 130 million shares at the close. That's massive. Octavia says he put a sell order in. Now, I am kind of wondering about if this is the spot to take my second contract off as well, because it is starting to do that sort of stuff. Actually, you know what? I probably in this situation. Okay, yeah, I'll do it right there, because there are too many times I've been chasing it back, right? But let's see, maybe the robot has the last laugh, right? But with the way that this has been going, if I'll just move things over to the right here a little bit and kind of shift it over. The way that this has been going, it'll come back and then, you know, pop back out later. And the robot will sell like right here or something like that. That's the way that it's been going. Not that that past is going to have any efficacy in predicting the future, but with my discretionary trade there, that worked pretty good, right? I was a little bit nervous about, like, okay, so I caught something here. I wish I had gotten it lower, but, you know, I was sitting there. I was trying to be fast. It's probably about the best that you're going to get from me in that kind of situation. It was okay, but then I was kind of like, oh, maybe that's all there is in it for me. But, you know, I had reduced my size already a little bit. I had a lot of room. I was just like, I should be able to let it, you know, see if the other flows come through. Like I think I can afford to do that. And it really did, didn't it? In this case, because the S&P 500 started to sell off, right? So it's not an amazing trade, but I guess kind of one of the things I'm doing, because yesterday's trade was like just amazing, right? Like to me, it was like I called it out a whole week in advance. I said it probably last day of the month is probably going to be a big buy day, probably. And the fact that so many people on social media were perplexed as to why it moved, that didn't see it coming, was really, to me, like, look, guys, like, I can't guarantee that you're going to make money, but I can at least make sure that you're actually playing the game. You know? But it was just, I had screwed up on that the last day of the month was Friday instead of Monday. Such a dumb mistake, right? If I had gotten that the whole way through, then it would have been amazing. I could have chopped all that up and been like, look, see, I'm right all the time. It would have been a really convincing thing for people. So I'm looking for a similar sort of setup today, because there was another confluence. Like, it's been a lot of like, I don't really see things that I can predict flows are going to come in. And then today I had three things really that I kind of thought would help predict flows. And, well, there was a little bit of nuance to the news because prices paid was a little bit high still. And the flows before the news were not in line with what I wanted. So that gave me pause. But it did play out, and we'll see. Like, if today ended up being a trend day, then I'm really going to be like, come on, guys. Bitcoin's taking a pretty big hit here with the S&P 500, by the way. An issue with my pen here. Maybe I should just try restarting it. Where are you? There we go. I guess now is a good time to think about, also, while I'm just thinking about it, checking to see if they have a new version. Well, they do have a new version. Minor bug fixes. Doesn't really say about what. Well, so far, I seem to be calling that spot pretty good. In fact, is it reversing? Interesting. But the S&P 500 is, it's probably the S&P more than anything. So I don't know. Might have been a little bit of luck involved in that. Okay. So live action says that was an interesting trade. You did averaging up in a tight window with a tight stop. No, I did not actually average up. I averaged down on it. So I had caught a spot right there at where it was kind of going kind of quick. And then it started to be a little bit slippery around in that area. So I added some additional contracts in there thinking, well, I should be able to grab a few ticks in here and give myself a better position. So I did that. And then, I had the orders out there on the offer just to be like, okay, like contract 4 or whatever it was is just me trying to get myself a lower position. So I'm only going to take it one tick. I'm going to take it off one tick above where my cost basis on the first 2 or 3 contracts were, is what I did. Basically, what I'm trying to do when I do that is I'm trying to get my break even point where I would be losing money below the point where I think that it could potentially go. It just based on randomness, right? Like if I'm looking at the market and an average range is yay much, then I want to have my break even be below that yay much. Now, the more interesting part was with the two contracts, like whether I took profits were there or letting it run. And that was a big question to me. And it worked. It worked. It's an interesting approach. Well, it's just a risk-taking strategy, right? I guess part of the reason why I harp on the, you can make a lot of money just from taking on risk is because I do it myself with the sim trades, and I understand the issues with doing it, right? I think that I can get away with it because I understand enough about what's going on and what is driving those flows to be able to avoid that big blow up. Oh, that might have actually improved it. Oh my gosh, did they fix it? Did their minor bug fixes finally fix the issue that I've been having with this tool for so long? Not a single hitch. Oh my gosh, guys. That makes me so unbelievably happy. I used to just sit here and be like, yeah, let's practice. And then it kind of was not fun to do because you would get all those stupid hitches. But now so good, guys. So there was a little bit of a decline. They got as low as 27 here, but it seems to be moderating back towards the hole. I'm really interested. I mean, I would expect that this 29.5 eventually becomes the point of control, but the volume profile is pretty wide there, so it could be anywhere within this. But I would predict it be at 29.5. I don't think it's given me enough to say, this is where it's going to stop. Where we'd like to see is like, like if this 27 right here was like pulling really, really easily a lot, then that would be the sort of thing that would really make me think that the volume is really going to continue to pile up there. But I'm seeing that behavior all across this range and not at that price in particular. So that's why I'm not so sure. Not bad. I don't know. I do feel I'm still torn on whether I should go skiing today. I'm honestly really so something I found helps with the going through this whole unemployment thing is keeping yourself active enough that you don't have time to worry about it. Because if I'm like watching the kids and I just sit on the couch and watch the kids all day, and I'm not expending energy and things like that, then your body starts to make the stress hormones and stuff, and I can like really feel it. It's like almost makes my head feel like cloudy, like brain fog or something like that. And if I take if I go skiing or I go for a walk, that really helps. So getting the last one in, it would be a good thing. But I also feel motivated, more motivated to try and program things. I had my other stuff. I was mostly like making content was kind of like I would make content and then that was my time. And so I didn't have time to get into the programming. And now I'm like, the content's not working. Let's switch. So I feel motivated to start it. And is taking off 3 or 4 hours. You get brilliant ideas on this list. I don't know if you have this around you or how old the kids are, but a great option once things warms up is disc golf. Oh, yeah, I don't think that. So they are basically 3 and 5. And one of them is extremely autistic. The 5-year-old is extremely autistic. So, yeah, like, I'll let them go out in the backyard. I don't know. Last time they went out in the backyard, they were kind of like, okay, this isn't that cool. They used to love being out there all the time, but I, was only like 15 minutes and then they were ready to come back inside. But, like going to a park or something like that. Not by myself. Not by myself with an autistic child. Because first of all, I will have to chase him all around the park. And, they're going to go to different places. So I won't be able to watch both of them at the same time because Asher will not stay in one place. And then, if Asher tries to do something or he gets hyper fixated on something and I have to pull him away from it, he's going to start screaming bloody murder and everybody will think I'm trying to steal him. So I don't think that a park is a good idea. Really have to push him, Well, it was before the winter. They were all about being outside all day. Oh, yeah. Can I pull up the cost base? This is a good question. So we are looking right now at about 22 half. I think I need to adjust these monitors. They're tilted a little bit, and I'm getting too much reflection here. So it's hard for me to read that number. Let's fix that. There, that's a little bit better. If you have him in ABA, the school was assessing him to do ABA. Oh, my wife works in the field and I've heard amazing success stories from her. Yeah, I think we need to get him into it. I think that with concerted effort that we can get him to talk. I don't think that I am skilled enough to do it, nor do I think that I have the attention span to get him to do it. Like the issue is he's not interested in it, and you have to be so persistent, you know? And then I'll be like, okay, now's not the time. We'll do it again later, and then I forget, you know? So I think the school could do it because he is showing all of the other signs that a child would show that they're ready to talk. He understands everything that we're saying. If I tell him to say something, he will try to say it. He simply cannot form the words. And in particular, he has a hard time making consonants. He can make them on their own, but combining them together into the rest of a word he can't do. Right? So there's definitely like a deficit there, but it's one that he has enough of the other tools that with work he should be able to overcome it. I don't know if I really based on all of the data and everything that I have, I kind of expect that he will probably never be completely independent. Like, I think that he might be enough to be able to get a job and maybe even like relationships and things, but he will still need a lot of support. I've seen things where like there are people online that are autistic and can't talk, but they can write and they can post on Reddit. So, oh, that was a much more extended decline there. I don't know, man. The cost base, the cost basis seems so far in this instance, doesn't it? They could get there though. Still at 22.5. I mean, the issue there is it's well below even the VWAP, so but the S&P 500 has almost recovered all of its losses. Well, I suppose if the S&P 500 recovers all of the losses and then continues up from there and gets above, let's say 5650, then I could potentially see the treasuries coming all the way back to that 22.5. But then probably the S&P 500 continues up and the treasuries start to do their own thing again, and you might see a slight gentle up tilt after that. Let's see here. Being nonverbal to a surprisingly old age is more common than I ever expected with kids with autism. I haven't heard her ever mention a single one who's ever failed to pick up speech. Really? Well, he's 5 now, so I don't know. It's like, okay, so one of the things that I think is really devious. Is it devious? I mean, it's like the universe screwing with you, right? Is that it's so uncertain. You don't know what the situation is actually going to be ever, that you never really take the time to like grieve, right? Like the reality here is I don't know if he'll ever have kids or if he'll have a normal life, and I may have to take care of him for the rest of his life, and I may have to watch him like a hawk for the rest of his life. And that's a lot. I don't think people understand, you know, they just think, oh, it's a kid, it's a kid. We've all dealt with kids before, but it's like you take a 2-year-old at their worst and then extending that out forever. It's an absolute nightmare. It never ends. And, but is it going to talk? Is he not going to, like, how bad is it? And I think that your brain is kind of waiting for like, okay, like once we know that what the full situation is, then we can kind of like grieve that loss of our life or whatever and deal with what we have to deal with now, right? But because how far he develops is so uncertain, you never do that. You know what I mean? I also think it wouldn't be so terrible if it was just him. But then the other problem is that the things that he will get hyper focused on are his brother and the dog. Well, I have 2 dogs, but one dog is really stupid, right? Is it, tell me, is it a thing that girl dogs are just more dumb? It just seems to me that female dogs are not as intelligent. Or at the very least, female dogs are just much more submissive. Right? And so my Goku, the Papillon, if Asher tries to pick him up, he runs away. Right? The other day, Asher was trying to like drop something on him, and or Ethan was trying to drop something on him, and Goku gave him a little nip. My wife was really upset about it, but I was like, nope, he did the right thing. Don't let people push you around. He didn't hurt him or anything. He just warned him. Gotta learn somehow. But Maple, the girl dog, she just does, you know, whatever. And the thing is she's not dumb enough to like go hide behind the couch. Like when he gets like that, go hide behind the couch or something, you know? Nah, she just sits there and cowers and lets him pick her up. And then what'll he do? He'll try and put her in a box or something. Is either cover it in blankets or put it in a box. For some reason, his favorite thing is putting things in boxes. This troubles me. I'm concerned that someday you're going to put something in a box and it's going to die. You know? And so I'm constantly having to watch out for that. And when he gets like that, it's just like there's nothing you can do. He will not drop it. It's like he's incapable of doing it. He knows it's wrong. He's like, okay, I'm not going to do that. And then he finds himself doing it again. It's just, brain is stuck on the loop. Everything has a place, even Doug. Oh, no, I don't know if it's that. Maybe it is that. I kind of wonder if it's like, well, I love being in enclosed spaces. Everybody should love that. Or if it's, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Is he a weirdly clean? I wouldn't say so, but it seems like maybe he is developing into that. Well, let's see. What was this other comment? Devious is the correct word. It's definitely rough to not know what the future holds, but if you're able to get them to a clinic, they would be able to offer you a ton of insight. Yeah, well, and so this is the other thing that just drives me absolutely batty about all this, is that in the beginning, there was like, okay, he's not talking, and so like the state, they say, well, we don't diagnose people with autism this early, but he is definitely developmentally disabled in some form. So we were able to get people that were coming over and trying to teach him to speak and things like that. They had some success, but ultimately didn't amount to much. I saw a lot of, there's another thing that autism does to you is you will see skill regression. He'll like learn how to say a certain thing, and then the next day he can't do it. Then he can never do it again. And so because of that, he has been going to preschool. Petco, thanks for being here, Paul. So he has been going to preschool, but they've mostly been treating him as developmentally disabled. And so then we had to go through all the work to get him diagnosed as autistic. It took forever. And then it was like, okay, he's autistic. Congratulations. like, okay, so like, aren't you gonna recommend that we go somewhere for this therapy and this and like you know, do all of these things after that? Nah. And the school didn't even pick up that like he had been diagnosed as autistic. So that just only recently that we like got the note from the doctor and gave it to the school, so that, and now they're assessing him for ADA and all of these sorts of things. So I'm like kind of like skeptical that the state is actually gonna, you know, like actually has the resources and everything, you know, for that. Like, is it gonna be that he just goes to special ed class at school and they take care of it? Or do I have to go and enroll him in an autistic specific school? And I'm just not confident in my state's resources for this sort of thing for it to happen. But then I'm unemployed, so like I can't afford like a private school for him right now or anything. So it seems to be going in the right direction, but I'm still a little bit nervous about how that all goes. But I'm hoping that Ethan gets a little bit older, that he starts to break away a little bit, right? Like Ethan, I don't think has realized that there's something unusual about Asher. He thinks that they're just the bestest buddies ever. And I'm like, no, Ethan, if I wasn't around, you'd probably be dead. Like, can't trust him. You can't trust him. But maybe then, maybe we'll be into a spot where if I'm watching the kids, I can still come in and work on my computer, and they will sit quietly in the chair and watch their own iPad or do their own thing instead of roaming around the house and destroying everything. Because that's my biggest frustration right now, is that I'm unemployed. I had 6 months unemployment. That would have been the perfect time to like develop tools and things like that. But because I have to watch kids, and because my kids require your full attention when you're watching them, I really can't get into programming something. You know, I need to be in a spot where I can program, and I only have to get a way to deal with an issue, right? Maybe if Ethan was 5 years old, we'd be there. I don't know. But I do get 2 days a week or so when my wife is around. which is today. That's kind of why I'm thinking I should work on that instead of going skiing. Would like to work on it through while we're streaming too, but like stuff's happening. Stuff's happening right now. So we got a good trade today. It was a really good trade. It really was. I think I was a little unhappy with it because I didn't size up as much as I wanted. But oh well. I wanted it to be $1,000 instead of $500. Let's see here. We got about 5 minutes left. I guess the other thing is it's supposed to keep snowing, so I probably could go tomorrow too. I was just looking at it. I went 15 times this year. So I thought, well, if I'm really close to like a benchmark, does it give you pins and stuff? Maybe I should go to, but no, 2 more times wouldn't make a dent. So. Oh yeah, that's right. I was going to go and look at the jobs board and see if things have gotten worse. LinkedIn is better on the new Windows app? No, thank you. There's a new one. There's 2 jobs that I applied for and interviewed through, and every step of the interview process, they sounded super positive and everything. Yeah, but they passed on me for whatever reason, and I still see the roles posted and it pisses me off to no end. Every time I come in here to be reminded. That pisses me off. What's with this one? Reposted 3 weeks ago. 8 people clicked apply. That's really bizarre. Why has only 8 people clicked apply? I've applied to it. I already applied to that one. Maybe not a real job. And Steffa says bye-bye. Yeah, I should be going too. Here we are. They did touch the cost basis. I am surprised that they came back that quickly, man. I really am. But it seems to be incredibly consistent, doesn't it? Well, we'll see if they bounce here. Normally, they would bounce here a little bit, and then we see what they do from here. But it seems to be an incredibly persistent behavior. So it's just kind of knowing when it's going to reverse. This is not one where I thought that it was going to reverse like that for sure. Yeah, so I will let you guys go. I will see you tomorrow. We still got plenty more data this week, so and then tomorrow is going to be Liberation Day, right? So could get crazy. Stay excellent, team.